When you think of gaming chairs, I bet you think of cheap, squeaky, uncomfortable and frankly bad quality chairs from Chinese factories that put no love and care into their products. I won't be naming names, but you know who I'm talking about. Well, there's one company that does things differently, and that's why we recently travelled almost 10 hours by car to visit Backforce in a small town called Mesten in the beautiful mountains of southern Germany. Backforce is a relatively small company who take pride in their range of products, and you may have seen one of their chairs before or recognise the distinct designs with the big shoulders, variety of colours and customisable Velcro name tags. And if you're an avid reader of the website, we've even reviewed chairs from them in the past. They invited us out to visit them and take a guided tour around their factory in the build up to Gamescom the following week, and we happily accepted. We were eager to see how a seemingly small company is able to produce such great quality products, especially outside of China where costs are a lot more expensive. Upon arrival, we were completely blown away by the sheer size of the factory and the stunning views surrounding it on all sides. In every direction you looked, there was an amazing view of hills and mountains with big green trees covering them. It felt almost utopian being stood by a giant factory compound in the middle of what seemed like nowhere. What we didn't quite realise coming into it was that Backforce isn't as small as we first thought, and is the gaming arm of a much bigger brand called Interstall. And in the lobby we were able to see the vast amount of chairs created by Interstall over the last 6 decades, and this was really only scratching the surface. You could also see that they take pride in making this space as comfortable as possible, with lounging areas and seating for employees to rest between shifts, especially considering that they hire over 1,300 staff, which is quite funny considering the village they're situated in only houses 1,000 residents, meaning that Interstall employ more people than people who actually live there. After introductions and talking with Backforce for a while, we were given some backstory on them and Interstall, which is a German-based company who have been developing and manufacturing chairs for the world of work for more than 60 years. It's a family-run business run by 2 brothers, Helmut and Joachim Link, and on their website they described the company by saying, Interstall is now active across the world. It is one of the leading European chair manufacturers and employs 1,000 committed members of staff. Our products make an important contribution to the health of the people using our products in offices or while working from home, in production environments, laboratories or while gaming, which is why we're here, to focus on the gaming side of things, especially in such a competitive market. To start the tour, we were taken outside and led to the main production area of the factory. However, on the way, we were surprised to see a small neighbourhood of houses and roads right by the giant main office building. This neighbourhood is used by employees of the company and they live and work in this compound high in the mountains of Mesten. Continuing on, we walked through some offices and were told when an employee begins work here, they're actually given the choice of what chair they would like out of the complete Interstall range that's available. And it was nice to see that the majority of people chose a Backforce chair, which I guess is a testament to the quality of their products. Us at eTeknix, coming from somewhat of a gaming background, we were proud to see that the stigma that gaming chairs are useless and uncomfortable was starting to be broken here. We were then taken up onto the roof of one of the buildings to get a better understanding of the scale of the compound, and it was huge. The roofs were covered in solar panels and they were angled straight towards the beaming sun, so it was nice to see the efforts that the company is actively putting in to try and make everything as ecological and efficient as possible due to the vast amount of power they use every day. They've also teamed up with local farms where they use the byproduct to help heat the building. They really did put a big focus on this and keeping waste to a minimum and doing their bit for the environment. Making our way inside, and the first room we entered was quality testing. There was an abundance of machines pushing, pulling and rolling the chairs around, testing the endurance and quality of the products while they were weighed down to simulate someone sitting in them. They were testing for weak spots and looking for inconsistencies or how long before the chair may break so that they could ensure every one of their designs can live up to its potential. All of this was automated, however there was an employee punching the numbers and making sure everything ran smoothly. And if you've ever been to IKEA, then you've probably seen something similar in their showrooms. This is also a testament to the Backforce 10-year warranty, which covers all Backforce products and spare parts, including gas springs and mechanisms, and they made it very clear to us that they haven't refused a warranty claim yet. We then made it into the factory and began to see the process of how a chair would actually be made. The rooms almost had a mechanic or garage feel to them, with chains and machines all around. At first glance, it was clear to see just how much material they actually have. The range of fabrics, metals and wood all lined up in rows and rows, ready to be used for whatever is next. We watched as they used giant machines to cut away fabrics and plastic in the shapes of the chairs, and how it would then move to a group to all be sewed together. Although they were using big machines, it was easy to see the amount of time and effort these people were dedicating to their chosen craft. It's nice to see that the chair you would be receiving was carefully handcrafted and sewn by a real person. A bit like how Nissan GTR engines are handmade and no two are 100% identical. It almost gives it a really comforting personal feel to the product, knowing that it's not just an automated assembly line. The most interesting part was how they create the foam inside of their chairs, as they do things slightly differently as you might expect. Most Chinese-based gaming chair brands and companies focus on cold-pressed foam, and they make it sound like a really big selling point, but it is in fact one of the cheapest ways to do it, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best. Backforce go a little deeper with it, as the way they make their foam is by using multiple liquids including polyol and creating a chemical reaction which in turn creates expanding foam, which rapidly expands, filling whatever gaps it can. That's where it is shot into a mould by a giant machine rotating between two areas and then collected by a person on the other side. The mould essentially acts like a waffle iron which clamps down and allows the foam to fit it to the shape. Again, a human element is still involved in terms of spraying the surface so that it doesn't stick, again like a waffle iron, and manually removing the foam once it's also complete. These moulds are actually designed in giant 3D printers in which they can decide on how to make them and alter them if need be before taking them and making them out of metal to ensure no waste of materials or money before achieving the perfect result. They showed us some cool little sculptures they've created using these printers, and that they've even printed a life-size chair, although it wasn't actually strong enough to sit on. They also had a room full of these moulds and other tooling equipment, and they made it very clear that this room houses some of the most expensive and heaviest components of the company. We were so interested in the idea of using a chemical reaction to create the expanding foam that they actually agreed to show us firsthand the reaction taking place. They led us down to the machines, and an employee showed us the process by shooting around 40 milliliters of the liquid into a plastic cup. And we could see the foam expanding at insane speeds, and it took less than a minute for the cup to be overflowing with foam. The amount of foam they can create in a short amount of time is mind-blowing, and whilst holding on to this small amount, I could actually feel the heat of the reaction in my hands. They allowed me to keep this little bit of foam as a bit of a memento, but to be honest, I'm not entirely sure what to do with it. So if you guys have any fun ideas, then let me know in the comment section below. But I will admit, it does now look quite questionable due to the shape. After the creation of the foam, it is sent into the next stage where someone quality checks it and shaves away any holes or excess foam that may have leaked over. They then take the time to dress it in its appropriate fabric or leather and staple it to the back, creating a final part of the chair. You'd expect this to be one of the most painstaking parts, however the employees made very quick work of it. While the soft furnishing parts are being assembled, another room contains the hardware and has stamping machines, automated welders and pieces of metal here, there and everywhere. The welding equipment is shielded on one side so that you can't look directly into it, while the other side has one employee per bench who assembles the likes of the base into a machine, which flips the wall around, and the automatic calibrated welder does its job. This gives enough time for the employee to move various components around before the welding is done, and they can move on to the next part. After this, the metal parts are taken into another room where they're all finished in a variety of colours through powder coating. And sadly, due to the electrostatic nature of how this is done, we couldn't take our camera equipment inside. But we did manage to look from outside and how everything again is on conveyors and hangers like one big production line. After all these various parts are done separately but also in unison, it's all then sent off to be quality checked and production can finish, where they put all of the pieces together creating the final product. They used automated carts or tables, and it felt like something from Star Wars, watching them drive themselves across and around the room. After that, it's placed on what can only really be described as an airport luggage rail and transported out of the factory to the packaging area through underground corridors. It comes out the other side and can be packaged and shipped out to various places and countries around the world, including single orders and bulk orders ready for distribution. Again, machines and humans working seamlessly together, and as you can already tell, there is a great use of machinery in the factory, but they don't seem to really rely on it. The amount of employees and manpower that is seen is, well, inspirational, and everyone's job is just as important as the other. The speed that the employees complete their task just shows that Backforce and Interstore only settle for the very best, and every employee is a master of their field. For the machines that are used, there are safety measures in place to make sure no accidents happen. An example of this was the automated sewing machine that was operated by one man. If he was to slip and pass the sensor, then the machine would instantly shut off. I had a go, and within a second of my hand passing the line, the whole thing stopped and didn't start again until it was manually told to do so. As we were walking around, it became apparent that the company feels like a family. People were waving and saying hello. They were more than happy for us to ask questions and film them doing their daily tasks, and one man even asked to take a photo with us. They all understood the idea that the place ran like a well-oiled machine. Each and every one of them was a pivotal part of the company, and without them, it just wouldn't work. We were told there is a system in place that allows for everyone to know if there's a problem in one of the stages, and if it was being held up so that they could slow it down or speed it up accordingly. Everything was working in perfect harmony. After the factory tour, we were taken to see a man who had been working here for over 60 years and began by creating horseshoes. He kindly showed us how to make our own and explained that this is how the company began before slowly making their way into the furniture market, and then ultimately into chairs and gaming chairs. On the website, there's a brief history of the start of the company stating, Interstall's story of success began in 1961 when two blacksmiths, Wilhelm and Werner Link, started to revolutionise the world of work. With their inventive spirit, a lot of hard work and a clear view for the needs of the people around them, they created the first workplace chair, the Bi-Regulate. To this day, nearly 60 years and more than 30 million sold chairs later. It was eye-opening to see the amount of creativity, innovation and effort put in by both Interstall and Backforce. The unique methods they used and how they came from two blacksmiths helping out the people around them to then become a globally successful company from that. It's, well, inspiring, and I want to thank Backforce for inviting us out to see it and for showing us around for the day. It was a different experience, but definitely one where we learnt a lot. So there we have it, a very different one today, but if you enjoyed it, a like and a sub would be greatly appreciated. And let us know if this is something you'd like to see more of. We definitely are willing to put the time and effort into this if it's something that you guys enjoyed. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one. See you later guys, bye bye.